Hi, Chris. It's good to have you. I know
Hello.
we've just shared your film that you did with Mind, which was really lovely to watch and see, and I'm really glad you're in a much better place now. So, thank you for being here today, and we'd just like to have just a quick conversation as to what you've been doing, how being a lived experience practitioner is. I know you've been doing a lot of work since you started this journey, and I know some of the organisations that you've been working with know you by another name now. So, henceforth, you will be known as the Mental Health Jedi. I welcome you to this conversation, and we'll start off with as a lived experience practitioner. Could you share with us your journey in how you got involved in mental health research and also the importance of your work on Project Soul Stride?
Certainly. And just for the benefit of those that are watching and listening, I am a suicide survivor first and foremost, and I still live with suicidal thoughts, albeit not anywhere near as frequently as they have been. There are lots of labels that are banded around this industry: LXP, EBE, PPI, and so on and so forth. But I am first and foremost a suicide survivor, and that is at the heart of everything I do. I have attempted suicide twice. I have been through long-term mental health recovery in Singapore, in Los Angeles, and also in London when I came back here from 20 years overseas just before COVID. When I returned, I had no idea what services or opportunities would be available to me to save my life. So I had to dig deep during COVID to find those different services. And I'm pleased to say that a lot of those have been very successful. And so I use all of that rich experience to educate and advocate, particularly for other Black men who may face difficulties in sharing their challenges and their issues. Project Soul Stride has become a passion project now. I started it August of last year, and I had no idea, Kim, where it would take me. The initial idea was to do a 3 months project, interview 30 people, have a conversation about my story, see where it might lead. And as Andy Bell at Centre for Mental Health told me, there is such a thing as the snowball effect. And I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. And actually, 30 people started to snowball and snowball until it is where it is now. It's become an avalanche. And I've engaged with now approximately 180 people I've spoken to in just 14 months across the country, but also into Africa, India, Australia, New Zealand, and on the east coast of the US. The main driver is to supplement the work that's going on in the UK around race equity and equal access to services, but to narrowly focus the conversation around the Black experience of suicidality. It's a subject that's been woefully underserved. It's hardly ever spoken about. There is very little, if any, research out there that I can really lay my hands to. And when I look at the individuals I've spoken to across the NHS, leading academics in the field, third sector, public health, grassroots organisations, there are definitely opportunities that I believe have not been exploited. And Project Soul Stride is really there to just shine a light, a much needed light on this topic, and hopefully get people talking about it and normalizing the conversation as I try to do.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And I know you've spent an awful lot of time working on research and speaking to people, as you just mentioned, the number of people, it's sort of snowballed into an avalanche, as we discussed the other week when we were talking. So I know, as I said, you've been working on this, as you mentioned, since August 2023. What are some of the high level outcomes? And I'm sure that there's so many, but have you got a few outcomes or findings from all of this extensive research that you've been doing? And where you maybe feel are the current and maybe future key challenges or opportunities for mental health and suicide prevention across and in the African Caribbean heritage community?
So I am not an academic. I am not a qualified researcher. I am a former business professional with 30 years of global international experience in sales, marketing, and business development. So the way I've gone about this project has not been research per se. And in fact, it was Professor Kamlesh Bui from Oxford who redirected my focus last December when he said that, Chris, there is way too much research papers already in the system. No point recycling that stuff. And quite frankly, the people that need to understand it and interpret it and learn from it are those in the public, like myself, the everyday man walking on the street. They're never going to read any of these documents. So he said, don't call it research, don't even call it qualitative data. He said, from today, consider yourself an investigative journalist conducting an independent market review of the suicide prevention and mental health field as an expert by experience. And when he switched that focus in my brain, it really became a lot easier for me to have those engagements and indeed really start to work the system and also be able to capitalize on the network that I have in place, which is, it is quite extraordinary, the people that I've been able to engage with, from very senior board level executives right down to the folks on the street. If I said to you that the key takeaways so far are nothing extraordinary, I stand on the shoulders of trailblazers that have come behind me, but this is what I would like just to share with you. The first thing is the need for culturally specific campaigns. I don't see any evidence of any culturally specific campaigns that target the Black community or many other minoritized ethnic communities. What I keep stressing to individuals and organizations is that we need to go where the foot traffic is. And when I say that, places of worship, community centers, GP surgeries, job centers. Whenever I visit these locations, I see absolutely zero posters, handout materials talking about mental health or suicide prevention. And it's no wonder people are scratching their head wondering, where do I go? The second thing is we need to have more funding for Black research. There is none. Of the 20 or so academics I've spoken to, one of them is Black. We need to fund Black research, and we also need to bring lived experience directly into the process. So regardless of what academic papers are produced, we need to focus on the executive summaries and then turn that into a medium, channel it through a medium where people can interpret it through TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. And the third area is a desperate need for well-structured peer networks. Whenever I speak to Black professionals in this space, I keep asking them, individuals, organizations, what can we do to bring voices together? And they keep saying the same thing. We need to have well-structured, well-facilitated, well-trained peer networks across the London, Greater London area that are connected, where we can share stories. It's all about stories, and that's what we're seriously lacking at the moment.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. And I think that's really important. That I know you have done a lot of research and evidence building, but the really passionate and storytelling is what really hits people. That's what people understand when you tell them about your story. They get that understanding. There's that real personal touch to the stories you're telling and what you're sharing. And I know over time you've done so many presentations now that the ones that really make the difference, it's not the research. People don't necessarily want to read the papers. The people that you're trying to reach out are the people that understand your story, and the storytelling is really very poignant, I think. So thank you for sharing that. So sort of looking forward now, maybe a little bit, what are the ambitions for Project Soulstride?
Well, if I said to you that since the launch of that Mind video in May, this morning when I checked it, 1,028 people have watched it. That's far more than I really had hoped. And there were only 5 of us that were picked by Mind nationally to make different videos. I was the only Black person, no surprise. But that means that there's potentially 1,028 people that have benefited from hearing my story. What I want to keep driving through Project Soulstride is to give other Black men the confidence to say, look, Chris has made himself so vulnerable that he's come out openly and he's spoken about this stuff. If Chris can do it from his bedroom in a shared house with no resources, just a laptop and a pad and a pen, then imagine what we could all do. And so what I'd like to find as I talk to the public health teams is I'd like to try and identify other champions within the boroughs who I could potentially mentor or coach and talk them through how I've gone about this stuff, and then encourage them to also step out of the shadows, as I wrote in my latest article with the Centre for Mental Health last week. Illuminate your story, be brave enough to tell your story. I can help you do that. And then slowly but surely, we get a network of these black men, young and old, because I'm 54. I probably won't continue doing this more than another 5 years because it would just be too much. But I'd like to find, you know, the next generation of suicide survivors who, you know, will follow the work that I've done, and it becomes a sort of legacy thing. From a challenge perspective, Kim, stigma is the main issue. It's so obvious when I read, listen, and talk to people, and I think that a lot of it it's going to sound ridiculous, Kim, because it's so simple, but a lot of it will come down to language. Consider this, that if we drop the word commit, suicide, if we drop the word commit, we remove the linkage to crime, because you commit a crime, you commit suicide. In the mind of a man thinking about it like that, he or she, for that matter, may not feel comfortable even engaging in the conversation. So, you know, Mind posted this the other day, and when they posted it on LinkedIn, I jumped all over it and I was like, bang, somebody's finally getting it. And so we need to work on the language. We talked about finding champions. We need more black leadership across the sector. There is none. PCREF, for me, is the biggest change maker in years, the Patient Carer Race Equality Framework. It will be legalized as of next year. It is a legal requirement for every NHS mental trust to prove that there have been successful outcomes to minority ethnic populations. This has never happened before, to my understanding. And that's why every NHS, I'm part of the task finish group for the CNWL PCREF. We're working on comms right now, and I keep stressing, it's all very well getting the communication plan right for your internal staff, essential. But tell me what we're going to do to communicate to the lady going to co-op, to the lady going into the church, to the man going to the community centre. Tell me what language we're going to use. And more community interventions. The Friendship Bench intervention from Harare, Zimbabwe, has the opportunity to be a major game changer. I'm working on that project now with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and the founder of the Friendship Bench for London project. This time next year, we may well see friendship benches either physically and virtually in terms of digital assets. I'm very hopeful about that, Kim.
Thanks very much, Chris. And I think definitely around the language, you know, we need to be consistent about that and what is the right language. So really important. And just trying to get out there to more areas sort of on the ground and communities, as you said, the friendship benches and things like that, just trying to reach as many people as possible. So there have been a couple of people already posted in the chat that really want to connect in with you and work with you. So I think one of the question that I did pop in the chat earlier was really about how you could share with us any future work or campaigns that you know you're working on that are coming up, and how we as a group or members of the group can maybe support you going forward with that. So I can see that Dan Bracken and Susan Morton have both said that they'd definitely like to link in with you. But is there anything else specifically around any future work or campaigns that you wanted to share with us that people might be able to support you with?
Yeah, you know, I really appreciate that. I think I realise that I've been able to accomplish a lot from this one desk. My biggest challenge, I think, is trying to make sure that all of the content, whether it's the podcasts, the articles, the blogs, the videos, all of that stuff, I can push it out through my own channels, which are quite good, but I need people to kind of, like a relay race, okay, take that and then let me push that out to my channels and encourage those to do the same. Because if more and more people get to see this stuff, the stronger the message is. And as I say, Kim, you know, if I can help one person or help 1,028 people, it doesn't matter. I will never know the impact of my work. All I can hope for is that, you know, in the last 30 days, 97 new people have followed the Project Soulstride page on LinkedIn. And when I look at the people from New Zealand, Japan, Slovenia, California, for the first time since World Suicide Prevention Day, people from all over the world are now following the work, which means that it could really have some quite far-reaching possibilities. So I can share my stuff. It all gets shared through LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and then please get the content out there.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And we'll definitely do that from a suicide prevention group as well, and sharing with our stakeholders. So we are coming to the close of our slot, Chris. So I know, you know, this is a very can be very dark and triggering, sensitive subject for a lot of people, but I know that you are a big Star Wars fan and you have a great sense of humor, and you bring that as well sometimes to this topic. So thank you for that, because I think we all need a bit of that. But can you please, just to finish off, share with us your favorite Star Wars quote?
Brilliant. Okay, so Kim, as I say the following 4 words, you must then repeat them, because that's how the quote is finished. Okay, so the words are, "This is the way." Now you say it.
We need to move forward.
No, you repeat the words. You repeat
Oh,
the
I
words.
see. Okay, sorry.
So let me do it again. So this is the way.
This is the way.
That's it. Bang, done. Thank you. Do you know where that's from? You don't
I'm
know
not
a big... No, there you go. And I can see there's a couple of people laughing from the Mandalorian. So yeah, for those Mando fans, you'll know that quote. Thank you very much, Kim. It's been great talking to you today. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your experiences.
Yeah.